welcome. If you want a Coca-Cola, it's not cold, but I have an extra one over there.
I already have 2 coffees.
Oh, gee,
so
go for it.
I'm already pumped enough. I don't need another Coca-Cola. Thank you, Katarina. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. Glad to see everyone wake up early today to join us today. Maybe you're wondering if I'm from Benfica or Sporting. I won't tell you my clubistic position. We did work with Benfica. I can tell you I was born in Porto, and I will leave it to that. But yeah, today I'm going to talk a little bit about a topic that I'm very passionate about, which is brand loyalty and engagement using NFTs, which is something that I've been working on for the past year very, very actively, and we've been working and advising several brands and communities on this. And to tell you just a little bit about me, again, born in Porto, live in Lisbon, worked with Benfica, maybe I am from Sporting, who knows, but I'm a person of the world in the end. I'm also what you can call an NFT degen. I am a collector. I have my own NFTs. I participate. I have my own alter ego on the digital world. But at the same time, I'm also very passionate on how to apply NFTs and blockchain to mainstream use cases. Because as we've been speaking over and over again, and we had some conversations yesterday here about that, the question is always, how can we bring this to a wider audience? Is there a place to bring this technology, these assets, to a wider audience? And this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, constantly, and especially on the 2 projects that I'm involved, which is Crowdclass and currently Members Club, which is a new product that we will be launching very soon. One is an NFT platform, other is a fan engagement platform. Again, very focused on mainstream use cases, very focused on targeting people, brands, audiences, creators who really don't give a shit about NFTs or Web3, but after they understand why they should start giving a shit, they actually do. So, to give a little bit of context, we can look at NFTs and think about how they kind of took the world by storm in 2021, right? We all seen that. It was a huge craze. We've been speaking about it. We have the generative profile pics craze. We have the CryptoPunks, which is an incredible project. Then we have the Bored Ape Yacht Club launching. And we've seen these assets rising to the values of millions of dollars being sold, traded. People are starting to see, whoa, this is the future. This is incredible. After generative profile pics, we saw almost a new renaissance of art for digital artists, for digital art pieces. You know, we have generative art, we have BEPRO and species, we have a huge bunch of creators, and we also have a very great talk about visualized value yesterday, where this new technology, this new world kind of opened up doors for many creators and artists to monetize in ways that they haven't monetized before, and that's incredible too. And of course, after all this massive craziness, what happened? Obviously, major brands jumped on board, right? They saw the craze, they saw the hype. Let's go, let's launch our own collectibles, let's launch our own assets. And we have here some 3 quick examples, Gucci, Blueberry, and Adidas, which had a massive launch and sold $25 million of 3D monkeys, right? And this was what's starting to happen for many people who are not on the Web3 world. Is like, whoa, this is incredible. You can make $25 million in 5 minutes selling 3D digital monkeys, right? And more brands jumped in, more brands came along. Well, what happened? We started to have this huge collective feeling of, we're all going to make it, right? I don't know how many of you here are from the Web3 world, but WAGME was probably one of the most used words in 2021, which means we're all going to make it. You would see it everywhere. You would see brands using it, people in the day-to-day use it, crypto enthusiasts using it. I think I haven't heard this word a single time in 2023. So are we going to make it or not? And the reality is that the bubble popped, right? The bubble popped. And this is like NFT trading values of NFTs, and we can clearly see that back in 21, 22, there was a massive craziness about NFTs. But of course, it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't sustainable. We couldn't keep up. The bubble popped. And what happened? Of course, the degen stayed, the crypto enthusiastic stayed, but what happened to the brands, to the mainstream audience, to the people from the that are not actively engaged in this type of world, that were starting to become very curious because they were looking at NFTs as an opportunity to make a lot of money and being involved in some of these weird digital communities. What they were starting to think about, well, I guess NFTs is just another scam after all. The bubble popped, there was surprise. And of course, if you go in and ask maybe someone of your friends who never got into NFTs, and if you ask them, so what do you think is an NFT? Oh, for them, it's a tainted word. You know, the other day I was speaking about that, and yeah, that's the thing where Justin Bieber paid $100 million for a monkey that doesn't mean anything nowadays, right? So this is the image that people have outside, and it's normal. It's normal because NFTs were mostly seen as an asset class, and they still are. They are still seen as an asset that's have a highly financialized aspect to it. You buy, you sell, you trade NFTs. NFTs have a specific value. And that's fine. They can be an asset class. But to go mainstream, it's probably not enough. Because this play of being an asset class is probably dead. It might reappear soon, but at this stage, it's not working anymore for the mainstream audiences. And don't get me wrong, there's still an audience for high-value digital collectibles nowadays. Right? There are NFT collectors. There are NFT degens. There is already, although not with the levels that we've seen in 2021, there's still people trading, buying, selling digital collectibles, art, PFPs being active on these communities. But it's a specific market. It's probably 0.1% of the population, 0.001% of the population. And that's fine. There's a market for that. But the question is, can we go beyond that or not? On my perspective, there is a possibility to do that. But for that, we have to go beyond thinking as NFTs as an asset class, as purely an asset class. Because for a lot of people, they are not that driven by financials, by money, and by this speculative asset that in the end many NFTs end up being. So how can we turn NFTs into something of value for regular consumers and mainstream brands? Okay, I'm not talking about the speculators, the collectors, the lovers of the technology. I'm talking about everyone else. How can we do that? This is something that I've been constantly thinking. I have my thesis. The projects that we're involved are always around that. So for me, I think we have to go and think first principles whenever we build technology, whenever we build something. And first principles is, what is the problem that we can solve? Right? That's first principles in any business, in any endeavor. What are the problems we can solve? And the reality is that brands nowadays, they do have several challenges that they face and that they know that they face. And their challenges are not Web3. Their challenges are not UX. Their biggest challenge is that younger generations are not engaged with loyalty, with brand connection in such an easy manner that maybe previous generations were. Today's generations, millennials, Gen Z, and it's getting worse, are disengaged generations. They have a lot of options. They have a lot of things going on. They have an entire world at the palm of their hands, and brands struggle with that. And brands want to capture the loyalty of these generations. The brands want to connect with these generations, and many of them, they don't know how to do it. Previously, back in the past, many brands, and they still do, they relied a lot on what's called traditional loyalty programs. You know, airline points, airline miles, hotel points, other things, right? But the reality, and this is from a study of McKinsey on loyalty programs, younger generations, now they look much more for emotional and social benefits when interacting with a brand than purely transactional benefits, right? And transactional benefits is the typical points for, miles for travel, points for a discount, right? Now they search for something more, connection, emotion, interaction, right? And there's a big opportunity here that brands can explore. And we think that NFTs can play a really interesting role on bringing this need that the audiences, that the consumers now have of emotional connection and social connection. Okay? So back to the NFTs, maybe we can change a little bit the perspective. And that's kind of what I want to challenge you today. So, and before going further, let's talk a little bit about cereals. Who eats cereals here or ever? Right? Who remembers that, I think this has disappeared, but up until the 2000s, who remembers those little toys that came up on every cereal box that we bought, right? Who bought cereal boxes because of the toys that were there? So why the hell did brands have toys in a cereal box? Was it just because they thought it was fun? Or did they just, maybe someone in the marketing department said, yeah, I really like Buzz Lightyear, so I'm going to put there a toy for the world. No, there was a very ingenious loyalty strategy behind these toys in a cereal box. Because these toys were also part of collections, and what drove is people were buying, and you confirmed that, those cereal boxes because the toys that were there. After you got a cereal box that had a collection, you wanted to complete that collection. You would buy the same when you go back to the supermarket. What was the cereal that you were insisting your parents to buy? That brand, that cereal, right? Why? Because of a very small toy in that cereal box, right? And even if you think about it, and a lot of times we talk about data capture, data collection, insights, how can brands know more about their audiences? Many years ago, these also cereal boxes, they have a part of the package where you can put your address there, send to the brand to complete your collection. So, and people were doing that. And again, they weren't just happy for you to finish your collection. They now know a lot more about you. They actually know where you live. They know your data, your details, your name, and you gave them to them because of this interaction. So why am I talking about toys in a cereal box? Because in my perspective, for mainstream consumers, for mainstream brands, NFTs are not the expensive speculative NFTs, are not art pieces. They are not these elements. There is a market for them. But for main consumers, for mainstream brands, toys, NFTs are toys in a cereal box. Those little big pieces that drive loyalty, that drive engagement, that drive a slightly more connection with the brand, that drive repeated consumption, and that drive data collection and insights. But there's something more, because now NFTs, they are not just a physical asset, they are also a very powerful digital primitive. And we can play with that. And that's where I think NFTs are kind of the new version of toys in a cereal box. Because there are, I believe, 3 core things that NFTs bring because of their properties as a digital primitive, a decentralized digital primitive, that bring a lot of power. and very interesting benefits to a brand. First is that they have, because they are authentic, they are provable, they are self-owned, they have a collectability perspective. And they are perfect to tell stories. They are a very great storytelling tool. If you do it right, people engage. It's a great way to celebrate moments. An NFT is a digital asset, authenticated, unique, scarce, that might not have any value at all from a monetary perspective, but if you issue it to represent a symbolic moment, a symbolic interaction, a game where your favorite team won, the championship that your favorite team won, it means something. It's a connection. So it's a very powerful element. The other thing, again, it's utility. So because of the digital primitive that is decentralized and provable anywhere else, right, you can easily re-engage back with the consumers, the users that are interacting with you, with new offers, with access to specific things, and again, incentivizing this loyalty, this search for new toys in your cereal boxes, whatever those are. And finally, composability and interoperability. And this allows the possibility of brands, without having to think too much on how they can integrate systems, how can then integrate systems with creators that they work, they can have a single layer, which is the blockchain layer, to act on partnering up, on incentivizing participation from their users, or co-creating with others, using a very simple tool, which is an authenticated tool, an authenticated asset that proves who was there, who participated, who engaged, who collected the 5 toys in that cereal box, right? And now I'm partnering with a new creator, and I'm doing a specific meet and greet for all the people that collected those 5 toys in the cereal box, which can be a game, which can be a Coca-Colas. Those Coca-Colas could be your cereal boxes. So in the end, for me, and I think this is where the power can stay on NFTs, is that they are a technology for emotion. They are an emotional technology. NFTs don't work just on the fact that they have a very powerful digital primitive, and they don't work only as an emotional element, but the two together creates, for me, this concept of emotional technology, which is something that is collectible, it is useful, and at the same is composable. And in the end, and back to what we were speaking about, they are a very powerful tools for brands if used correctly. If we start by definancializing them, not thinking about them as just another asset class, there is a space for assets and an asset class on NFTs, but for the mainstream world, probably that's not how we want to look at them. And that can give you a lot of information. Maybe revenue is on the last. We all got fooled when Adidas, with a single drop, sold $25 million. But that's not where Adidas makes money. Adidas makes much more money selling sneakers every year to the same loyal consumers and customers, and that's the people that the brands want to sell to and want to engage with, right? And this is where I think NFTs, when you think about that, they can create this funnel where you start to understand who are your most loyal consumers. You give them something back. You give them these little assets that you create specifically for your audience. You gamify that, and that allows you to collect a lot of knowledge, insights. Those insights can drive loyalty, because now you can know what triggers you pull to drive that loyalty, and that loyalty will drive to revenue. So yeah, and just to finish up, just going to share a few examples of brands that everyone is still experimenting. You know, I think there's no one that fully got it. And of course, a lot of this is also things that I've been thinking a lot over the last years. But I'm just going to share 4 quick examples. I'm happy to talk about them later on too, throughout the day. One of them is obviously the Starbucks Odyssey program. Very interesting program where they are using, again, rewards that are distributed for free for people who engage with the brand, for people who participate on some online activities, for people who buy coffee, right? So they have a gamification model where they incentivize people to engage with the brand, and the final prize is an NFT. It's a collectible. It's a scarce digital collectible. Every month they do different editions, and there are people that are just collecting them for fun because they like that. It doesn't have any direct cost for the user, but in the meantime, they have to buy coffee, or they have to do that, or they have to share something for Starbucks, right? That's the type of revenue that Starbucks wants and needs, and that's the type of loyalty that they want. They don't want to sell the direct NFT. They want to use the NFT as that toy in a cereal box. Other one is something that Gary Vee, he's evolving a lot, but it's definitely a great use case. Gary Vee launched an NFT collection that is now evolving a lot, creating a whole community around it, but all based around the concept of access and utility. They are collectibles too, but from the start, many of those collectibles have direct access even to Gary Vee, right? And very big fans of Gary Vee wanted to be part of it. And some of them were exchanged around, and Gary Vee is building an even stronger community around him and around his brand because of all these interactions that he's doing around the Vee friends. Other one, which is a very powerful and very interesting project, is .swoosh. .swoosh is a project by Nike, which is a project where they are using their community to create virtual assets. It's a project around community building, around co-creation, about virtual assets that are built together, and where people can also use these same assets to re-engage with others. And finally, this is a project like Katarina mentioned. It's a project we worked on. It's a very dear project of mine, which was celebrating the Benfica championship, right? Which was a box to celebrate the moment, very specifically, very timely. And this box was a way to engage with a specific set of fans, and then the box contained multiple collectibles, but more than that, access to merchandise and access to games on the actual stadium. So all of those are some examples on how brands can innovate on NFTs, definancializing them and changing the perspective to something that generates engagement, that generates interaction, that generates insights, and then generates loyalty. And bottom line, generates revenue. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Wow, well done. But you didn't really answer. Are you from Benfica? Or you wanna compromise yourself?
I won't compromise myself. I would say like
you
that.
already made the answer. It's interesting because I'm reading one of the books, Start With Why, from Simon.
There.
Yeah, just wait for the microphone.
Good morning. Hello, Filipe. My question is, sometimes brands, fans, us, collectors, or even developers don't come together to finish a project. I'll tell you an example, like McLaren had NFTs. Who owned a McLaren could go there and collect their NFTs, and someone also could buy it. But the project got scratched. So a big brand like McLaren was not supposed to scratch some kind of project like this. Other examples like Animoca brands that has everything that goes with NFTs sometimes publish projects and they don't keep up with the promises. So my question is, there is still something missing from all of this. Sometimes, I don't know why, it doesn't, the brand loyalty is there, the utility is there, but the connection between the three, let's say, who develops who owns the brand and who collects it is just not there. My question is, what's missing sometimes? And I own the Swash and Nike tennis. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for your question. That is a hard question, and actually, the answer might be on why did that brand start that project, right? And if it was rooted on the wrong reasons, and which was not building consecutive loyalty, or it was built by a separate team or innovation team that is not very clear on the clear objectives that they are delivering that project, then it might not tie with internal alignment with the brand. And then what happens is, that is not brand loyalty, that's actually brand unloyalty, right? It's not even a problem with the NFTs, it's a problem that the brand did not keep up with the promise, and that's really bad, right? And I think, again, what happens is, and I've seen this happen on some internal conversations, is that if the brand is not looking as NFTs as on the right angle, they are expecting it, again, if they are expecting it to be a direct financial asset or something that they want to monetize quickly or have very results quickly and not thinking long term, of course, if they don't have the results quickly, it just goes through internal bureaucracy and reaches some kind of department that looks, this initiative, target this, current KPI is that, not reaching, cut, right? And of course, that person doesn't have no visibility on what's happening on the operational floor, on the project, and on the brand to fan interaction. And in the end, it kills that project. But maybe if that project internally was rooted on different types of alignment or strategic alignment with the long-term vision of the brand, then the internal way that the brand would look at that would be different on the way how they would decide to cut or not that project. And again, the most successful ones that I'm showing here are the ones that are keeping their promise. They are working on it. They are building it slowly, and that's what brand loyalty is. It's not an immediate thing. And again, thinking back on the craziness of 2021, 2022, people got wrong that because everything was too immediate, the results happened too immediate, and that's the exception, not the norm, right? So we have to shift that perspective, and we have to keep working on that. And internally, we have to sell projects with that mindset. This is not a short-term, quick audience grab, cash grab kind of thing. It's a part of a systematic strategy of building connection, building loyalty, and if we want to build loyalty, we as a brand need to keep up with whatever promise we make. That's the standard of the concept of loyalty. I hope I answered the question.
Anyone else? Yeah, just here in the front. No, they will get you the microphone, don't worry. We have a nice system. There are people over there wicking to make sure you have a lovely sound so everybody can hear you. It's a good exercise.
Do you think that maybe they are spending too much time trying to sell NFTs rather than what they're actually offering? The NFT, why mention the NFT?
Yeah, again, yes, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think that's in essence to their problem.
I think brands don't need to sell NFTs, period.
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't. It's not their business, right? But they can use digital collectibles. They can use authenticated digital collectibles. They can use verified tickets. They can use toys in a cereal box, right, that are then authenticated on the blockchain. They are verifiable. It's the next layer of the gift that they are giving to their audiences that can be used to build that loyalty, that slow and growing loyalty. So yeah, I don't think brands should sell NFTs, and they shouldn't sell digital collectibles at all too, because that's not, obviously if you are an artist, you are a digital artist, you sell your digital art. If you are a coffee company, you sell coffee. But you engage with your audiences in many different ways to drive them to buy coffee.
No, absolutely. I was just thinking that's why they most should be failed, is they try to sell the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like a coffee from Starbucks with their own name, isn't it? It's like, oh, they're talking to me. This is
Exactly.
so special, isn't it? And who doesn't have, for instance, a toy or any Lego from Star Wars, for example?
I do, actually.
They don't sell, their main issue is not selling toys, but again, and also they do it. Other questions, please? Upstairs. Yeah, just say the microphone. Good.
Hello.
Hi.
In my opinion, what happened with the NFT world is, do you know Nike bought the Artifact company?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good thing because Artifact was a NFT collection with moda in English? Mode? No. Como é que se diz moda em inglês? Fashion.
Fashion.
Fashion brand, was a fashion brand, and Nike looked at and say, that's a good people, what I can absorb for my company. And my question is, do you know a software or a website where you can sell your NFT brand when it's a big NFT brand, like a startup, but you have the community, the right community, and when I did I want a NFT brand fashion. I have this Barrett Abject Club collaborate too. And that's my question, if you know this.
I mean, so 2 points to the hair. First, answering your question, I think there are several. You can, even a typical OpenSea, if it's a true NFT, you can sell it and trade it. Then all the brands, sometimes they also make their own marketplace just to collect the fees. And I'm not sure if Artifact actually has their own website where you can actually sell and resell the tools. But back to Artifact and back to that point, the thing is, and I think Artifact is a great use case on the sense that it's a great use case for digital collectors, okay? But it's not the right tool to reach a wide mainstream audience. Again, there is a public for Artifact assets, for digital fashion assets, right? But it's a subset of the Nike communities, right? But there's a whole bunch of mainstream consumers, and if you talk with 99% of Nike fans, they don't know what Artifact does, probably. And that's fine, okay? That is fine. There is a public for that. There is a market for that. There is a community for that, right? But there's a whole spectrum of people who don't care about that financialization of the assets, who are not really thinking on reselling anything, right? You don't buy a shoe, you don't go to a concert immediately thinking on reselling it. Most of the people, if you are a true fan, you don't buy merchandise thinking on reselling it. You don't buy a CD thinking on reselling it. You buy because you have that connection and you want to continue build that connection. So just to add to that in your comment, I also wanted to highlight that.
Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you,
I don't have
Katarina.
any Harley Davidson, even though it's like...